Alright, in this lesson we are going to be looking at adding and subtracting different types of polynomials. Just kind of a quick little review. If I look at just this polynomial right here, I want you to notice it has 1, 2, 3 terms, and so it's called a trinomial according to the number of terms. Okay, according to the number of terms it's a trinomial. This right here has a degree of 2, this one has a degree of 1, this one has a degree of 0, and so that term would be called a constant. But notice the highest degree you see is a 2, and that is telling me that that is a quadratic polynomial. Based on the degree, it would be called quadratic. Based on the number of terms, it's called a trinomial. Based on the degree, it would be called a quadratic. Just kind of a little review of our previous lesson. Anyways, this one is working on adding and subtracting polynomials. In order to do this, you want to look at having like terms. Like terms means you have the same base and the same exponent. When you have an addition sign in between, like I do right here, I can just simply add those polynomials as is. I don't really need to do anything. So I am going to add 4x squared and 3x squared. 4x squared plus 3x squared, I only add the coefficients or the numbers out in front. I do not add the exponents. And that becomes 7 of those x squareds. Okay? Then I'm going to go to my x terms. I'm going to keep my answers in descending order of my exponents, so I always want to pick the highest exponent first and then work my way down. Here I will have a positive 5x and a positive 3x. And again, I will just add my coefficients, so 5 plus 3 makes 8 x's, 8 of those x's. I do not add the exponents here. I would only add the exponents if I was multiplying. And then I have 1 and 8, which of course makes 9. So this is what this answer would look like. Notice my answer in this case also happens to be a trinomial because it has 3 terms to it, and it also happens to be a quadratic because it has a degree of 2. Here's another one. Again, you want to pick the highest exponent first. I'm adding, so I don't need to worry about anything. I can just add as is, and I can add this 5x cubed. That's the biggest exponent I see is an x cubed, with this 4 exponent, or 4x to the third, okay? And so 4x to the third plus 5x to the third becomes 9x to the third. Then I would look for any x squareds. I don't have any x squareds here, so technically I have 0 x squareds. I do not need to write that, but I do have 0 x squareds. And then I would have 7x and 3x, so 7x plus 3x makes 10x. And then I have 4 plus 9, which makes positive 13. So here's my answer. I can't combine an x cubed with an x or an x cubed with a 13 or anything like that, so this is all that I can do. I want you to notice that this has 3 terms to it. Just remember there's 1, 2, 3 terms to it, so it's a trinomial because it's 3 terms to it. The biggest exponent that I see is a 3, so it's got a degree of 3. And when it has a degree of 3, that means it's a cubic equation. So this is a trinomial, and it's cubic. All right, here we're doing the same kind of thing. These are all addition signs in between, so we're just going to combine our like terms. Look for our highest exponents first. So my highest exponent that I see is an x squared. There's 1 here, and there's 1 here. Add the coefficients. 8x squared plus 3x squared would make 11x squared. Then you're going to go to your next highest exponent, which is just x to the 1. So I have 7x plus 5x, which makes 12x, minus 4x. So 12 minus 4 makes 8x, positive 8x. And then I have 6, and I have negative 4, which makes 2. Okay, so this is what my answer should look like. Again, I do want you to notice that it has 1, 2, 3 terms to it, so it's called a trinomial. And because the biggest degree that I see is a 2, it is called a quadratic. All right, now we're moving on to subtracting. With subtracting, it's a little bit different. This is one of the most common math mistakes people make all the way through their entire math career. When you subtract a quantity, like this quantity right here, you cannot just subtract this first term, which is a lot of what a lot of people want to do. You need to subtract 3x squared, and you need to subtract 3x, and you need to subtract 1. You need to subtract all three terms. So you can kind of think about this as having this 1, this imaginary 1 right here, and you have this minus sign in between. And what you really need to do is you need to distribute that negative through that parentheses, because you need to subtract all three terms, not just the first term. So I'm going to switch this in the back and make this be negative 3x squared and negative 3x and negative 1. And that's because I distributed that negative 1 through. So negative 1 times 3x was negative 3x squared. Negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. So that's where I got that. I do not need to touch anything in the front parentheses. I do not have a negative in front of it. So I don't need to switch any of the signs. I can just leave that one. Now, this is what my problem looks like, and now I want to combine my like terms as I see them. So you first of all want to look for the highest exponent, which of course we know is x squareds here. So I have 4x squared and negative 3x squared, so that makes 1x squared. I do not need to write the 1 in front. And then I have 5x and negative 3x, which we know makes 2x. And then I have 8 and negative 1, which of course makes 7. Okay? And this is what my grand final answer would be. Again, because there's three terms, it's a trinomial. Because the biggest exponent I see is squared, it is a quadratic. All right. Same kind of thing here, you guys. Be really, really careful. When there's this minus sign in between, you need to remember to subtract 9, to subtract 7x, and to subtract 5x cubed. Okay, now, if this was a minus sign right here, then you would go negative times a negative, and it would become a positive. Okay, but it's not. And I'm just going to bring down that first parentheses, and now I'm going to combine my like terms. Okay, I'm going to look for my highest exponent first, which would be x cubed. So I have 4x cubed and negative 5x cubed, which is negative 1x cubed. And then I have 3x and negative 7x, which makes negative 4x. And I have 4 and negative 9, which makes negative 5. And that is my grand final answer. Notice it has three terms to it, so it's a trinomial. The biggest exponent I see is a 3, so it is a cubic expression. All right, here we go. This is the only one that has a minus in between it. So I need to switch this right here to negative 5x. So negative times 5x is negative 5x. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. So I need to switch that. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. Now I need to combine my like terms, looking for my highest exponent first. Highest exponent is x squared. So I have 8x squared and 3x squared here. So 11x squared. Notice I'm not adding my exponents, I'm only adding the numbers out in front. Then I'm going to look at my x's. So I have 7x here and negative 5x, which makes 2x, and negative 4x, which makes negative 2x. And then I have a positive 6 and a positive 4, which makes 10. Okay, again, three terms, so it's a trinomial. Biggest degree I see is a 2, so it is quadratic. And that is it.